Hey there. I want to talk to you today about when to discontinue speech therapy. There are a couple of different times when we might choose to stop. And I always tell families it's my job to put myself out of a job, right? That's like going in. We know that the relationship is going to have hopefully a beginning, a middle, and an end at some point. And for some kids, they're going to be in speech therapy for a long time, several years or more. And some will just be there for, some months to a year. I generally tell parents think in terms of 6-month chunks, so 6 to 12 months usually. But that varies tremendously depending on the diagnosis and what's happening. But there are going to be times when we choose to discontinue therapy, even when we're not finished. And so I want to tell you a story about a little guy who I saw who was a late talker, was not talking, and we got him sort of operational in his life where he is now using words and combining them and sort of making his needs, wants, and ideas known to his adults. And there are sounds that he's making that are not correct. They're not finished. And there are ways in which he's expressing himself that are not grammatical for his age. And that's okay. This is a child that I said to the parents, listen, he's probably going to come back at some point. We're going to do a little touch up. We're going to do a little reconfiguring at some point, maybe, or maybe not. We don't know. We can't see the future. But right now, his speech and language abilities are tracking with what he needs them for. And we don't need to be here every week hammering a dead horse, beating a dead horse, right? So that was one instance where we press pause for a minute, and it's okay. Here's what I never want to do. I never want to get a child sort of up and rolling with some new abilities in speech language therapy, and then let them go off on their own too soon. So that is something I'm always taking a look at, is like, okay, how are you using the skills that we're learning in therapy? Are you taking those out into the real world? Are you using them, and are you doing your own therapy? So what I mean by that is when kids reach a certain level, they start practicing their skills on their own in their life, which is in fact what kids who are developing typical language in an expected way, that's what they do, right? They're practicing. You hear them in their cribs, you hear them in the car, you hear them everywhere, sort of bah, 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 repeating things that they've heard, practicing. When I see kids starting to practice, that's when I know it might be time to pause if we're going to do that. Before that, I never want to discharge somebody too early. So it's not a science, it's more of an art. But it is kind of this constant balance between like, what are we seeing in regular life? What are we seeing in therapy? Do we want to pause? Do we want to keep going? The other major time when I will say, pause, is when kids are a little bit older. So like 7-ish, 8, 9, 10 on up, when they do not feel invested in their own progress. It is extremely important that older kids who are working on any kind of speech and language skill understand and value for themselves why they're working on it. This is huge. You're mostly parents watching this, right? Your belief that it's important is only going to go so far for children of a certain age. So when they're young, your will reigns, right? which always made it for me a very, very great time, which is like, I get to decide and I know what's best for you, and life is so easy in some ways and in other ways not. Once they get older, we, the speech therapy team, the speech therapists need to have their buy-in, the kids' buy-in, not yours. And so there are going to be times when, and I've done this multiple times, my therapists have all done this multiple times, when we go to a parent and we say, you know what? Yes, we do have this sound that we need to work on. Yes, we do have these verb tenses that we need to work on. Yes, there is a vocabulary thing happening here that we want to work on. And now is not the right time. And so we're going to press pause. We're going to see what happens. We're going to monitor. We're going to watch and see. I never recommend a wait and see. I always do a watch and see because we want to be active about it. And you're going to come back when the time is right and not before, because then we're just wasting everybody's time and effort and money. And it's pointless to do that because we're going to get kids who are repeating errors and practicing mistakes rather than kids who are wanting and believing and knowing that what they're doing is important and that they're going to learn something new and be able to take it forward in their life, and that it means something to them. We have to trust older kids' self-knowledge at some level and their sense of agency and control. And so there are going to be those have also been times when I've been like, you know what? Yes, this has to get done, but we're just not going to get it done right now, and it's okay. We'll come back later. So those are two scenarios kind of on either side of early childhood, when sometimes we just press pause and it's okay. And I also gave you one scenario where obviously we don't want to press pause because we haven't reached what I think of as cruising altitude. But once we reach cruising altitude, or we see that like, not going so well over here, it's totally okay to take a break. Until next time, take care.